Assalamu alaikum and welcome back once again to Today in African History with Baba Shaka. I'm Baba Shaka and today is February 14th, 2021. And it was on this date, February 14th, back in the year 1760, that Richard Allen was born. Now the question is, who was Richard Allen? Richard Allen was an African religious leader and founder and first bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal or AME Zion Church. See, Allen was born a slave in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Some scholars said he was born in Delaware. See, back then, the birth records for slave children, or for most people living in the country back then, were a little sketchy. I mean, some people weren't sure what year they were born or where they were born unless they were told that by their family. Even the great Frederick Douglass is not too sure what year he was born in. But we'll say that we knew that Richard Allen grew up in Philadelphia, so we'll say that he was born in Philadelphia. But we know he was born in 1760. All right? And he grew up during the American Revolution, which was an era characterized by the advocacy of individual rights, the growth of denominational Christianity, and the inception of anti-slavery movement. Around 1768, Allen's owner, a Philadelphia lawyer named Benjamin Chew, sold him, his three siblings, and his parents to Stokely Sturgis, a plantation owner in Delaware. So now we see the Delaware connection. With the permission of Sturgis, Allen began to attend Methodist meetings. This is after he had heard the preachings of an itinerant Methodist minister who railed against slavery. Allen said, "Hey, this sounds good to me. I like this." So he converted to Methodism back in or around 1777. Now, in the second half of the 18th century, Methodism proliferated in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. The Christian denomination emphasized a simple set of virtues that included honesty, modesty, and sobriety. Following his conversion, in 1780, Sturgis agreed to let Allen hire himself out in order to earn money to purchase his freedom for $2,000. Now, that's a lot of money back then. In addition to doing manual labor, Allen began to preach at Methodist churches in Delaware and in neighboring states. In 1786, Allen paid his last installment to Sturgis and became a freedman. That same year, Allen accepted an invitation to preach at St. George's Church in Philadelphia, and this was a mixed-race congregation of Methodists. And within a short time, Allen dramatically increased St. George's African membership, and the building could no longer accommodate the growing congregation. White elders of St. George's rejected Allen's request for a separate place of worship for African members and chose instead to construct a separate seating within the church by installing a balcony. In 1787, discouraged by the fact that the African worshippers who had helped construct the balcony would be relegated to sitting there, Allen joined the Reverend Absalom Jones to found the Free African Society, or the FAS, which was a non-denominational religious association and mutual aid organization. Allen's Methodist fervor, however, drove him to leave the Free African Society after 2 years because of the organization's non-denominational orientation. Allen's commitment to Methodism also compelled him to stay at St. George's despite the segregated seating arrangement. One Sunday morning in 1792, Jones challenged St. George's segregated seating arrangement by sitting downstairs. And in the middle of the opening prayer, two white trustees forced Jones to leave. Allen and the other African members who had been seated in the balcony then walked out of St. George's. Until this incident, few African Methodists had been receptive to Allen's call for the establishment of an independent black church. On August 12, 1792, members of the Free African Society founded the African Church of Philadelphia. Because of the Methodist discriminatory treatment of blacks, the church was consecrated as part of the Protestant Episcopal Church, and Jones became the denomination's first black priest. Allen, however, remained faithful to Methodism and used his savings to buy a former blacksmith shop and transplant it onto a plot of land that he had previously purchased in Philadelphia. After renovations, Bethel African Church opened on February 4th, 1794, and Allen was ordained as deacon. After Bethel was officially initiated at the 1796 Methodist Conference, white Methodist officials attempted to gain control over Allen's church, but a Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling in 1807 declared that the black Methodist congregation owned the property on which they worshiped and that they could determine who would preach there. Following Allen's example, many black Methodists formed African Methodist churches in northeastern cities. Because all experienced similar challenges from white Methodists, Allen organized a convention of black Methodists in 1816 to address their shared problems. The leaders decided to unite their churches under the name of the African Methodist Episcopal, or AME Church. Accordingly, they gained control over the governance of their churches and placed themselves beyond white ecclesiastical jurisdiction. Attendants elected Allen bishop of the new denomination, a position he held until his death in 1831. The AME Church immediately became a center of black institutional life. As its leader, Allen created the Bethel Benevolent Society and the African Society for the Education of Youth. He also published articles in freedom's journals attacking slavery and organizations such as the American Colonization Society. Because Allen believed enslaved and free Africans in America could best be served through education and religious instruction, he opposed organizations that advocated the migrations of Africans back to Africa. Although the AME Church initiated missionary efforts in such countries as Haiti and Canada during the late 1820s, Allen kept the church focused on elevating Africans in America, especially those in the South. As he said, quote, "We will never separate ourselves voluntarily from the slave population in this country. They are our brethren, and we feel there is more virtue in suffering privations with them rather than fancied advantage for a season," unquote. The AME Church proliferated in the South after the Civil War and today has a membership of more than 1.2 million. Now, to learn more about the AME Church and people like Absalom Jones and Bishop Allen, I recommend a reading of the Encyclopedia of African American Christian Heritage, written by Marvin Andrew McMickle. I also dedicate this particular video to my brother Alan Burris and his wife, the Reverend Denise Burris. Okay. Also, I would like to give a special shout out once again to the President Baba Mosi and the sisters and brothers of the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division number 330 UNIA ACL Rehabilitating Committee. That is the Universal Negro Improvement Association, originally founded by the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and the African Community League. And these are folks who are helping to promote these daily lessons on their Facebook pages because, you see, our goals are the same, and that is simply to enlighten African people to their glorious history. For those of you who have already subscribed, we cannot thank you enough for your continued support. For those of you who have not yet subscribed, we enthusiastically urge and ask you to hit that subscribe button, become a member of the family, and whenever we upload one of these videos, you will get it automatically. You won't have to go looking for it. We also encourage everyone to like and share, especially with the young people in our midst. So until tomorrow, inshallah, this is Baba Shaka with Today in African History. Masalam.